anybody that will not take a risk on themselves, it just blows my mind. It's scary. I can say this now in hindsight. I mean, if he wouldn't have come to my door and handed me $125 and been like, hey, let's go, I wouldn't have bet on myself either. It's that whole self-confidence thing. But, you'll see people that they'll buy a lottery ticket. They'll put their faith in something like that. But then they won't buy a master class. Well, you're going to get something out of that one. The lottery ticket, some dude up north made $750 million this weekend. That's great. But how many people bought tickets? How many people laid down $100 bill, or more than that over the course of a few weeks? So betting on yourself, and just, you have to, in any mode of your life, business, relationships, whatever. Here's the thing, especially in business, and this is one thing we learned. When you put yourself in those make or break situations, you will perform at a different level than you normally will perform at. Because it is make or break.
Amen.
If you don't put yourself under that stress sometimes, then you're getting that comfort zone and, it's not so bad today. I'll just kind of chill. I'm not going to work hard. But if you put yourself in those situations like, man, we have got to sell every t-shirt in this dad blame tent or we're out of business. Well, you're going to sell them. You're going to get them. Yeah. You're going to sell them.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Nick Carrier's Best You podcast. I'm super excited today to have the one and only Roy Mangrum with me today. Just want to start by saying, Roy, I really appreciate you spending the time with me today.
Absolutely, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, of course. So, as you guys can see with his background there, his digital background there, he is the founder and co-owner of Barbell Voodoo, which is a clothing company that's based here in Nashville, and they really specialize in funny t-shirts. And at the time of this recording, he kind of just released the Bernie Sanders meme t-shirt, which he's talked about. He's already almost sold about 100 t-shirts over the last day or so, over the last really few hours since you released it last night. So like I said, you specialize in funny t-shirts, and we'll get into some of those maybe different ideas that you've had in the past. But the way I kind of want to start today, Roy, is you mentioned to me prior to this that you've been in business about 7 years, give or take. What was the primary reason why you created the business in the first place?
Well, it wasn't started to be a business. That was not even in the plan. What had happened was my background's powerlifting, so I've always been a big dude. I had went to a CrossFit gym to drop some weight to get ready for a competition, because as you get older, it does get a little bit more difficult to drop the LBs quickly. So I was trying to make weight for a competition. I went to this gym. Long story short, I really liked it, and I was like, hey, I'd love to wear one of your shirts and, support you guys, because everything I'm wearing is all powerlifting. I'm running around with all these CrossFitters at the time. And he's like, yeah, they're under the counter. Go grab you one. And then, just let me know, and I'll, you can pay me whenever. So I look under the counter, and he has like some, like one large, two mediums, and a small. I'm like, do I put all these together to make one shirt? What am I doing here? So that was it. So I was like, well, dude, I'll just print my own shirt. He's like, yeah, have at it. And that's how it all started. I would talk at the gym with Jeremy, who ended up being my business partner. Like, man, I got this idea for a shirt. And this went on for weeks and weeks. And he calls me out. He's like, man, why haven't you printed these shirts? Well, at the time, we had two houses. Me and my wife had two houses. Not by plan. We bought one. The other one didn't sell, so we had two mortgages. And I was like, man, I just don't have the extra cash. He's like, well, how much could it even be? I'm like, I don't know, like $250. So I leave the gym. It was a Saturday. Get home, my wife comes up. She's like, "Hey, somebody's at the door." So I ran to the door. It's him. We live in the same neighborhood. He hands me $125 and said, "All right, we're business partners. Order them shirts." Just kind of calls me out, and I'm like, "All right, cool." And that's how it started. We bought, I think we had the money for 28, 29 shirts with that. Bought the shirts, took them to the gym the next Saturday, or 2 Saturdays, however long it took to get them in. Sold out that day. Took that money, doubled it, sold them again. And then just it kind of snowballed from there into what we're doing now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's a hell of a story. Kudos to your friend for calling you out, and then kudos for you guys for finally taking action on it. So at that point, when did it kind of get to the point, from the story that you just told, when it gets to the point where you're like, okay, we're gonna actually do this thing. We're gonna actually, focus on building this.
Man, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I think it's just one of those things where never found the right niche. I would call it play business. Starting this company, trying to do this, trying to do that, just nothing hit. So it's always something I'd wanted to do. A side hustle is not a bad thing ever. If you can make a little extra cash here and there, it's always a good thing. So we sold those shirts. Of course, now we've sold them to everybody we knew. So there's nobody else to sell a shirt to.
Yeah.
They're not going to buy the same shirt again. So now it's like, oh, well, I have this other idea, another shirt. We printed it. Or we took, some money and printed a batch of those, and people were buying them. But at some point, I don't know what the tipping point was, but we were like, if all these people at this gym like what we're doing and are into it, what about all the other gyms? What about all the other gyms in the state? What about all the other gyms in the country? And just kind of that thought process. And I don't think it was ever like a big, huge discussion.
Yeah.
It just, hey, let's put up a website. Let's start going to some of these local competitions and seeing if we can peddle these things and if it's viable. And it's fun. Like for me, it's like this creative outlet that I didn't know I needed.
Right.
And it's been a blessing for that. So it keeps me sane.
Yeah, dude, no doubt. I think it's kind of cool because it seems like you guys kind of very, you just kind of inched your way through the process, and you're like, oh, this is doing well. Let's make another shirt, and then let's go to another gym. And I feel like it was a very natural process in which you kind of grew it. Was there ever like a moment that you feel like got you guys over the hump where you maybe like were selling to a number of gyms, or was there ever a time where you felt like this is more than just play? Like this is actually something that, we can grow even bigger.
Man, probably the very first, and we've done great, we've done all this debt free. And that was the whole thing. If it shut down tomorrow, I don't want to have to go like, oh, well, I owe this person money. I owe this person money. And you know what I mean?
Right.
So we've always kind of had that mentality of take our time and do it right. And there's stuff we could have done to grow faster. But we want it to be more organic and real, So as we were going on this road, a lot of things were going great. Online was doing great, but a couple of years ago, and I can't remember I'm so bad with dates, but the CrossFit Games actually came to Nashville. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
It was like 18. Was that 18?
I think it was 18.
Okay, 18 or 17, I can't remember. But anyway, so they brought regionals here for the first year. The cost of the booth was astronomical, of course, and we had the money for a 10 by 10, and that was it. Which at the time we were setting up like a 10 by 20-foot booth everywhere we went, because we just had at that point just so much stuff: shorts and knee sleeves and wrist wraps and all the funny shirts. But we had the money, and we kind of were like, I remember the conversation we had was like, all right, we're putting it all on black. If we lose here, we could go out of business. But, you know, this is kind of that, you know, drawing the line in the sand, you know, of are we real or are we playing, right? Kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And I remember, you know, there's all these bigger companies that have investors and things like that are set up around us. And they have great stuff too. And we met a lot of those people, and they're great people. But, you know, we're just happy to be at the show, man. We're just happy to be included. And the doors open. Dave Castro walks by, and we had a Castro drinking Kool-Aid shirt. And he stops and asks how much they were. We're like, no, dude, you can have one for free. And we got a picture of Dave Castro with the shirt. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And that was day one. We had lines out the tent the entire time we were there. You didn't have time to eat. You didn't have time to go to the bathroom. It was just absurd. We were having to have our printer print stuff, like overnight it in, print it, and then drive it to us downtown Nashville. It was the most insane. It was the most insane thing. It was so humbling, right? And you know, a lot of it is we're hometown, man, and people knew how hard we had worked to get to that point, and they were supporting us, man. They were walking around everywhere you looked was Barbell Voodoo everywhere. And at the end of that day, I think that was that kind of moment. We're like, you know what, this is something. This is real. This is not a joke. We're not kind of playing business anymore. This is a viable business. I mean, and then now, you know, spring ahead, 2021 now. I mean, we have employees, we have a warehouse. You got it's crazy.
Yeah.
But that was the moment. That was the moment we're like, you know, if it doesn't stick here, we quit. You know, we're done. You know.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that is such a awesome story for a lot of different reasons, but for one, because I think a lot of people have similar types of moments in their life where it's either like I'm going all in and it's kind of like a make or break situation. And a lot of times people don't seize those opportunities. They don't take the opportunity. They don't take the leap of faith. They don't take on that risk. So like if somebody is listening to this and they might have the opportunity, but they're not really sure whether they should take a leap of faith or take the risk, like what allowed you to have the courage and what allowed you to kind of take that leap of faith and have the belief that like, I want to try this thing. I want to go for it. I want to go all in.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of analogies. One thing is, you know, I'll talk to people and they'll be like, hey, what's the best time to start a business? I'm like, yesterday.
Yeah. Right.
Second best time is today. Right. During the pandemic, you know, I had people like, man, I want to do something, but this isn't the right time. I'm like, man, you're crazy. This is the best time. Everybody's sitting at home.
Yeah.
They got nothing to do. They're on their phones. 2020 was the best year our company had ever done by a lot.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's not an accident. I mean, Tiger King didn't hurt. It was a ridiculous, you know, dumpster fire of a show, and we sold a stupid shirt that, you know, we sold a lot of. But take that out of the equation, our company still did better this year. Anybody that will not take a risk on themselves, it just blows my mind. It's scary. You know, I can say this now in hindsight. I mean, if he wouldn't have come to my door and handed me $125 and been like, hey, let's go, I wouldn't have bet on myself either. You know, it's that whole self-confidence thing. But, you'll see people that they'll buy a lottery ticket. They'll put their faith in something like that, but then they won't buy a master class. Well, you're going to get something out of that one. The lottery ticket, some dude up north made $750 million this weekend. That's great. But how many people bought tickets? How many people laid down $100 bill, or more than that over the course of a few weeks? So betting on yourself, and just, you have to, in any mode of your life, business, relationships, whatever. Here's the thing, especially in business, and this is one thing we learned. When you put yourself in those make or break situations, you will perform at a different level than you normally will perform at, because it is make or break.
Amen.
If you don't put yourself under that stress sometimes, then you're getting that comfort zone, and you know what? It's not so bad today. I'll just kind of chill. I'm not going to work hard. But if you put yourself in those situations like, man, we have got to sell every T-shirt in this dad blame tent, or we're out of business. Well, you're going to sell them. You're going to get them. Yeah. You're going to sell them. So it's imperative that people take that risk.
Yeah, dude. There's so much great in there. Like you said, you have to in a sense put your back against the wall. You have to give yourself a sense of urgency that requires of you to take massive action so you can actually get the result that you need. And I loved what you said in regards to, like, you have to take a risk on yourself, and a lot of people aren't willing to take a risk on themselves. And I feel like it does come down to a confidence thing, and it obviously depends on what the risk actually is, for why the person doesn't have confidence. But to kind of go back where you said your partner walked up with $125. Let's say he didn't do that, or like maybe just before he did that, what would you now say to you back then to try to like get you to believe in the business, believe in the shirts, believe in yourself, really, to get you to actually move forward? Yeah,
if it was me from the future going back then, I'd just kick myself in the ass. I mean, you know what I mean? It's mind-boggling to me. And granted, we're not, we're a big company for the area, but we're not this massive. We're not a Lululemon. We're not a massive juggernaut. And I mean, literally just knowing where we started with what we started with, it's hard for me to fathom if I was there, knowing if you was like, man, you'll have a warehouse, you'll have this, you got people in different states working for you, and like, what, man? Are you smoking something? You know what I mean? It wouldn't make sense. It'd be really hard to even try to comprehend. But when you mentioned risk, what type of risk? I've used this with my business partner a million times. Calculated risk, right? You don't want to take an absurd risk, right? Somebody listens to this podcast and they go, get a second mortgage on their house and then put it all on black. No, that's not what we're talking about. A calculated risk of going, man, $125. If I lose $125, how much is a good steak dinner? Right?
Yeah.
Steak dinner, buy the shirts, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is, or do, start your business smart, start it small, just make some type of action, some type of motion,
right.
And start, just keep falling forward, man. Even if you're going to fall on your face, if you're falling forward, you're making progress.
Yeah.
But a calculated risk, although it is a risk, like I was saying about how we tried to operate this company always as a debt-free type of deal. yeah, we have a lease on the warehouse, right? So we'd have to deal with that. But if everything, when 2020 started, or in March, when everything just started going to hell in a handbasket, there was concern. I was concerned. I was like, man, can we make it through this? Are we going to be out of business? It would have been sad. It'd been like losing a family member. But was I going to lose my house over it? No.
Yeah.
Was we still going to be able to eat and do our thing? Absolutely. It was not going to change any of that. It was just going to be something that would have been taken away from me before I was ready for it to be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean by risk, right? A calculated risk. Like I said, $125. If you've got a bunch of people over watching football or a UFC fight, you can spend $125 on pizza real quick.
Yeah.
So it's not that big a risk, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm all there with you. And I love this conversation around risk. But one of the things that I was interested before, but I was even more interested when we got it on and you started talking to me about the Bernie Sanders shirts. I'm interested in like the creative process, and like you said, like this is a creative outlet that you didn't really necessarily know that you needed. How do you come up with the new ideas for shirts? Is it like, I guess it's culturally trending stuff? You mentioned Tiger King, the Bernie Sanders meme that's currently going on. Like, when do you see something you're like, I have got to do that?
In the beginning, it was like really, really tough. And I think that's kind of anything, like was talking about staying in motion, right? Falling forward. The first design was easy. It was something I already had kind of, and I'd had it for a long time. But then it's like, okay, we need a second design, a third design, a fourth design. Your fourth or fifth design, you're like, man, you're beating your head against the wall. Like, I can't think of anything. It's so tough. And then I kind of started to find our niche, right? Mm-hmm. And our niche was funny. By nature, I may not look like a funny person, tattoos and, big beard, bald head. But I'm a very funny person and very, I have a huge sense of humor. I laugh at everything. I laugh at myself more than anything. And what I was trying to do with the brand in the beginning was more serious. And I was like, well, these two pieces don't fit together. Just do you, be you, and people are going to buy it regardless, right? Mm. They're either going to buy it or they're not. And what I found was by being authentic and being me and doing the things that I found funny, there's other like-minded individuals in the world who find the same stuff funny. The Bernie Sanders sitting on the bench. Hey, can you spot me again, bro? Yeah. I mean, it's timely. You have to be timely. That does help. But, putting it out there, people are like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing ever. As far as, the joke is, when people ask, how do you come up with your ideas? The joke is bourbon. That's what I tell everybody. I'm like, I just drink a lot of bourbon.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, it just kind of happens, I can be driving down the road and I see a billboard and an idea will kind of start to pop in my head and then kind of work on it a little bit.
I feel like it's a lot about just kind of like awareness of like different things that are around you.
Yeah, absolutely. It is awareness. But it's like nowadays, and you'll go through tracks, right? You'll go through, in probably any business where you're like, man, I just can't think of anything. And then something just pops in your head and here we go. We're back off to the races.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's not, I know that's not the answer people probably want to hear. They want to know the secret sauce. There really isn't a secret sauce. It just kind of happens. But it happens because it's something I love.
Yeah.
And it's authentically me. If you're trying to be something you're not, you're making it way harder.
Yeah.
But if you're being authentically yourself and what you find funny and just roll with that, or what you find to be cool or what you find to be whatever, you roll with that, you'll find there's other like-minded individuals in this country or in this world who are going to agree with you, and they're going to roll with you because of that.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think literally the last 3 podcast interviews that I've had, the same topic or idea of authenticity, and like one of the a phrase that I've used and I've heard is magnify your uniqueness. Like, be so good at being you, because I think a lot of us and I think all of us fall victim to it, is like we see somebody else being a certain way and we think, oh, we should be that way too. But if that's not our personality, then we shouldn't be that way. And a guy who I had on like literally the last podcast talked about how like you're not like we compete in everything, and then like business is like it's a competition, but like you're not competing against your own personality. Like if you can just like really maximize your personality and really make it as authentically big, if you will. That doesn't mean like super loud and rambunctious, but it just means like really magnifying your personality. And that's one of the biggest things that's like one of the most important things that you can do in business, and just like getting more in personal development and everything like that. I feel like I did not verbalize that in the best way possible, but it's just to come up in a lot.
It's as I call it, I turn the volume up. I'm normally this way, and then when it's time to do whatever I got to do, I just turn the volume up, and then that's what you get.
All right, I'm glad that you said that. That turn the volume up was what I was trying to say in 3 sentences.
3 sentences. But no, what you're saying about authenticity, you have to be unique and you have to be different, and people love that uniqueness. If you're just trying to be like everybody else, a steak dinner is great, but if you ate it every day of the week, you'd be like, man, let's go for some chicken.
Yeah.
So be the variety. Variety is the spice of life. That's what makes everything awesome. If your podcast is just like every single podcast out there,
yeah,
you're not unique.
Right. 100%.
But you find your niche and you roll with that and turn the volume up, and you're off to the races.
Yeah. So on this topic of creativity and coming up with kind of designs, has there ever been a t-shirt that you had a design for and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to crush it, this is going to be awesome, and then it just like did not do nearly what you thought it was going to? I'm guessing yes, coming from the laugh.
Yeah, it's the funniest thing. So we had a design, when was this? It's a couple of years ago now. So had this idea for a Golden Girls t-shirt. And it's golden curls or swollen girls, or I forget, people call it different things. It's just all them. They're all jacked and flexing. And had the idea, and I was like, man, I'm not printing this. This is stupid. And I forgot why or how we ended up doing it, or maybe I did a pre-order just to see if anybody bought it. It ended up being the best-selling shirt to this day we've ever had. So likewise, I did this Mr. Rogers shirt changing his lifters. And I was like, my God, this is going to kill.
Yeah.
Nope. Did not. It was okay, but it didn't kill. So, that's the weird thing. But you just put it all out there to the universe, and then people are going to digest it and take it. And if they want it, but, so the cool thing at this point now, though, is, we have the ability to store a lot of this stuff, and most of it's evergreen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like Golden Girls never goes out of style. Mr. Rogers never goes out of style. Bob Ross never goes out of style. So these things can sell for years, and it's okay. Yeah. So, where you have to be careful is the stuff like, I was referencing the Tiger King shirt. It had a very short shelf life. If it was going to sell, it was going to sell here. And then after that, probably not going to sell a whole lot of Tiger Kings in 2021. And that's okay. So you kind of do the pre-order thing, and, if it catches fire, then great. If it doesn't, okay, well, you didn't lose anything because you're only printing what you made or what you sold.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So one of the things that I found most admirable about you when we talked in the past is like how community driven you are personally as a man. And so I guess I want to stem from there. I guess I want to start like when back in March, Nashville experienced a tornado and then COVID, all this kind of stuff. Go through a little bit of like when Nashville had the tornado and like what you guys did, and you were worried about the business with COVID and all that kind of stuff. Just go, I read the blog that you guys did. Just kind of talk a little bit about that timeline.
yeah, it was such a crazy March. It's all a blur. It was very crazy. But so March 3rd was the tornado, correct?
I'm not exactly sure the date, but
Yeah. It's either the early morning of March 3rd. I think that's what it was. All right. So we were supposed to be going to the Arnold to set up for the Arnold Expo. We had went the year before. Amazing event. Had such a great time. And it's one of those big tentpole events for us now, right? Do the Arnold Classic, the CrossFit Games. There's a couple of other big events we go to. And that's kind of where you make the bulk of your money normally, right? So we're all set to go. We had paid like in July the previous year, paid the booth fees and everything, which is, again, those big events are super expensive to go to. We had people flying in to help work the booth. All this stuff is set up to go. We've loaded the we bought a new trailer, had built a new display thing. It was like, looks like a cage. It's the craziest looking thing you've ever seen. Nobody still got to see it really. But all this stuff is done. The trailer's loaded. We're leaving the next morning. I get a call or an email. Actually, no, I got a text from another brand who was going to be there. And he said, "Hey, have you seen this article?" No, what article are you talking about? Now, the night before this, I was watching NBA, and the second game never came on because they brought up one of the refs had tested positive for COVID. And I was like, oh, boy, this is getting serious here, right? He sends me this news article, and it's a press conference from Columbus where they announced they're canceling the expo portion of the Arnold. Huge hit to us. I'm like, man, this is scary. So we had purchased this trailer. We had this big, huge rig built. And then, of course, we had to go and order all the stuff we're going to sell, right? Have all these shirts printed and shorts and all this stuff. Get everything ready. And I was like, man, all right. So I'm telling my business partner, I'm like, well, we got about $10,000 that we need to recoup in 30 days, right? Wow. Because we had spent all the money on the trailer and this cool stuff because we're going to be making that money back. Now, when you take all that away, plus the fact that we had already spent almost $6,000 for the event, for the booth space or booth rental at the Arnold, the pocketbook was empty, right? We're pulling lint out at that point. So kind of freaked out. I'm like, all right, I got to come up with a plan. I got to figure something out. This was on a Wednesday. The event would have started on Friday. So Thursday morning, I got up. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to strike fast and hard. I'm going to put a huge sale out on Thursday before anybody else does because I don't want to get lost in the noise of everybody else running a sale. I put it out on Thursday. And for the first time ever, and because I don't do a lot of podcasts and stuff anyway, but for the first time ever, I wrote this long thing from me. Normally, I'm Jeremy calls me the invisible hand, right? I hide in the background. But I wanted people to know what this company was to us, how important these events were, and honestly, how scared we were. We were scared, you know. I didn't want to go out of business because of this, and I didn't want to lose 10 grand or whatever. But so I put the sale out. And plus, just with the whole COVID thing, you didn't know what the next day. I mean, everything was changing daily. So we put the shoe sale out and kind of crossed our fingers, man. And that day, Thursday, by that night, we had made our $10,000 that we had to have to pay for all the stuff we had ordered. So I was blown away, and I was humbled. I was probably in tears a couple of times, just of how much and people were messaging us and sending us emails and just how much they were supporting us. And I was like, man, all right, we got to do something. So from the day job, like we were talking earlier, I have, a day job. I get to work from home, which is sweet. I was already off work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The van was empty. We have the Barbell Voodoo van was empty. We went and emptied the trailer. And then, of course, the tornadoes had hit a couple of days prior to that, downtown Nashville. So downtown Nashville was in a mess, and those folks needed help. I'm like, you know what? I'm going out of my pocket. We took the van, we went to Walmart, and Lowe's, and Home Depot, and just bought every bottle of water, or case of water rather, that we could find, toilet paper, paper towels, tarps, gloves, flashlights. I mean, we were buying like a box. Like, you have those gloves? Yes, I need a case.
Yeah.
Not off the shelf. I want a case of gloves. I need a case of flashlights. It was that. I mean, we filled half the van was full.
Wow.
We took it all downtown, donated that, and then the next 2 days, we volunteered cleanup. We were down there with shovels and helping businesses move out of their buildings, what they could salvage. Chiropractor down there. I've never lifted the heaviest. Oh my God, this stuff is so heavy. But we're in this chiropractor's office. I'm like, man, why did I sign up for this one? But we're down there helping these people move out of their businesses and put it into a U-Haul truck, and they didn't know when or if they were going to get to come back. I kind of kept up with that chiropractor. He's out of business.
Mm.
The double whammy of the tornado and then had COVID on top of it. But so we just kind of donated our time, man. And it's like, it's one of those karma things.
Yeah.
The world reached out to us, the universe, however you want to look at it, blessed us. We're going to turn around. We're going to try to give that back. And then we just kind of kept that momentum going, sales online had totally ramped up in a way we didn't expect, for no reason other than, I think, like I was saying, people were just kind of at home looking for stuff to do as stuff was kind of changing and evolving with the COVID situation.
Right.
Brandy Forbes with Crossfitrmitage, their building was hit directly from the tornado. It was 100% loss. And they were in a bad spot. I mean, they were like going into a park and just trying to hold their gym community together.
Right.
So we come out with a shirt to help them, and we did 100% of the proceeds from that shirt went straight to that gym. I think we ended up giving them around $6,000, which was huge. And then we did a 50% of the profit of any sale could go to any gym. And then pretty much how it worked was, you could have signed any gym you wanted up. you would literally just send us an email. Hey, I go to, Orange Theory in whatever location, right?
Right.
We give you a code, right? That code you could share with all your members and friends and stuff like that. They would shop on our site, use that code. That code would give them free shipping so we could kind of track things. And then we would run a report at the end of that, whatever that period was. I think it was 2 weeks, 7 days, 14 days, something like that. We'd run that report, and then we would start PayPaling out all this money. So we ended up, with all that said and done, and again, we're not a huge company, but it was like $28,000 that we donated back to the community. So
that's awesome.
Man, it really felt good. I got more out of that than I think they did, to be honest.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I was captivated throughout that whole thing, throughout that whole story, and I just admire your ability to, like, I think a lot of people, at the beginning of COVID obviously got scared, but maybe didn't, they reacted instead of responded, like, intelligently and in a thoughtful manner, and you guys were able to kind of keep a little bit of perspective and help the community out, rather than like just think like about yourself the entire time, which is easy to do in moments like that. So I think that's super special and super unique. But down to the last couple questions here, Roy. I think that getting closer to the best version of yourself, in order to do that, my goal every single day is to try to gain clarity on what I think the best version of myself looks like and what the best version of myself is capable of. And then my goal is to reverse engineer that person into reality. And so a question that I found really important for myself, that I ask myself every so often, is what I'm getting ready to ask you. And that's, is there a specific skill or piece of knowledge that the best version of yourself has that you don't yet currently have?
Patience. Yeah, I mean, I think, over the past, well, let me say this. The past year, and granted, I get it, 2020 was not probably on anybody's list of year of the century or their favorite year. But I got more and learned more and understood more about myself, business, relationships, what's important, what's not important in 2020 than I had previously grasped in the other 42 years of my life. So, where people are like, man, I just can't wait to get out this year. I'm like, well, I don't think that just changing the calendar is going to make it better, but I'm thankful. I'm thankful for those lessons. I'm thankful for the opportunities it gave me to spend more time at home and hanging out with the wife. And then we had a little pod of friends that we got really, really close with and learned a lot about them that we didn't know. Mm-hmm. And as far as the business, I think I looked at it a totally different way, as far as not just of coming out with a cool shirt, a funny shirt, selling it, making a little money here and there, and having people that you can kind of help put bread on their table. But in addition, this machine that's kind of been built, what it can do for the other people. What can it do for this gym owner over here, or this cause over here? So it really opened my eyes. But as far as my best self, I think that for me, and I think it's always a moving target.
Yeah.
That you're always striving, of course, to find your best self, but it is a moving target. When you get to whatever that skill is, you're gonna be like, man, what if I learned this other skill?
Yeah, exactly.
To it.
Exactly. No doubt. Well, before I get to the last question here, Roy, I just want to acknowledge you. One, because, I think that one of the things that really stood out to me that you said was that how you never would have imagined yourself as like down the road now, knowing that you have a warehouse, knowing that you have employees, like you wouldn't have imagined this idea when you went under the table and you didn't have a t-shirt and so you printed it yourself. You wouldn't have imagined that this thing has turned into what it currently is. And I think that's so important because I think probably a lot of people in here feel like there's no way that they could create something. They could create their own business and stuff like that. And it's just proof that other people feel that way, and then they create something that is magnificent and create something that can donate $28,000 to the community. So I think that was just awesome. And then I think that your ability to be authentic and to magnify your uniqueness and magnify your humor so that you can build your brand more and more. I think that's not easy to do, and I think it's really admirable that you've been able to do it. And then honestly, last thing I want to say to you personally is I want to challenge you to put yourself out there a little bit more. Not in an inauthentic way, but obviously you wrote that blog. I've freaking loved reading that blog. I know you don't do a whole lot of podcasts, but your stories have been awesome. And I've been captivated during this podcast, and I know a lot of people listening are going to feel the same way. And so I would encourage you to try to do a little bit more of that.
I'll do it. I promise.
Awesome. Well, now they're going to want to go follow you guys and support you guys. So make sure you guys go to on all social media platforms at Barbell Voodoo, and that's Barbell BARBELL, and then Voodoo VOODOO, and I'll have that all linked up on the show notes as well. But last question here, Roy, is I think that, as you said, getting closer to the best version of yourself is a constant journey. I don't think we're ever at that best version of ourselves. And then I also think it's a unique journey. I think the way that I'm going to get closer to the best version of myself is going to be a little bit different than the way that you get closer to the best version of yourself. So for you, again, personally, if there are 3 things that you can currently do or 3 things that you can currently work on to get closer to that best Roy Mangrum that you can possibly be, then what are those 3 things that you could currently do and currently work on?
Man, the number one, which we hadn't talked about this previously, but I have been saying this to my wife actually lately, is more intentional with my time. Right? I have the worst habit of these little games on your cell phone, right? The little Candy Crush and all that crap. And it's just it's a time waster, right? And I said, I'm quitting. And I've deleted them off my phone and all that good stuff. And trying to be more intentional. I'm I'm going to use that time to read the Bible. I'm going to use that time to read a book, listening to a book a week on these nifty earpod gimmicks she just got me. But just being more intentional with your time. One thing that I'd say a second thing would be more in the moment. So as I've told her in the past, be wherever your feet are, right? So if you're standing here having this conversation between me and you, I'm not going to be looking at my phone to see who just texts. I'm not going to be reading my email. I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to be in this moment, getting as much out of it as I can. And then a third thing, a third thing. I don't know about a third thing.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, no, those are a couple of great ones. Both of them I'm working on, trying to work on as well. And for me, honestly, doing this podcast since October of 2018 has been one of the biggest things that's helped me be better at being in the moment and being present, because I can't be a good podcaster or be a good interviewer if I'm not focused on you and my mind's going all these different ways. So it definitely takes a lot of practice. But Roy, those are 2 great things. Awesome interview. Loved hearing your stories and hearing how Barbell Voodoo has gotten to where it is today. You guys go make sure that you check out their website, check out all the awesome, funny T-shirts that they have. And that's all we got today, Roy.
Hey, and thanks for having us, or having me, I guess. The dog's behind me. I say us. And then congratulations on #1 podcast in Nashville, 2nd year in a row.
Yes, sir.
It's pretty awesome, man. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.